everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Ripple Effect Podcast. My name is Daniel. We're so glad that you've joined us, whether you're watching this or you're listening to this on the go. We're so happy that you are here. As usual, this podcast is a behind-the-scenes look at things going on at Timberlake, and it gives us a chance to highlight a ministry or somebody that we think you need to know about. We are excited to be with you. In the studio, I have Mr. Brian all the way on the other side, and I have Miss Trinity here joining us today. I'm excited about this one because she made me wait a whole week for this podcast. We had it planned, and then it was like, no, we got to wait. And you got to wait for greatness. Yes. And so you're here, though.
Yes, I am.
I'm very excited that you're here. We're going to talk with her today, and we're excited about that. But as usual, we're going to start with a recap of Sunday. And this past Sunday, we started a series called The One for Me. And it's not the romantic one for me. We are talking about Jesus' I am statements in the Gospel of John. What does Jesus say about himself? And then how do we then help other people see that as well? Because someone is in your life that God has put there for you to encourage, for you to help, for you to bless, for you to help them see Jesus well. And we want to open our eyes up to that. So were you at church on Sunday, Trinity?
I was, but I left early because I was on call. So
why did you because you were working? Is that why you so rudely left early?
Yes, it is. And I was tired of listening to you, so
you disrupted the whole service.
Yes, I had to.
That's good. We were in the Gospel of John, chapter 6, and I'll just read this for you. It's John 6, verse 35. Jesus said, "I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me shall not hunger, but whoever believes in me shall never thirst. But I say to you that you have seen me, and yet you do not believe. All that the Father gives me will come to me, and whoever comes to me I will never cast out." So we talked about how Jesus is the source of life. He's the bread of life that comes from God. And Brian, I thought you could speak to this a little bit because I saw that your wife is dabbling in sourdough. So talk to us about bread and how delicious.
We have all kinds of bread at our house. Bagels, sourdough pizza, crust.
That's so delicious.
Which isn't always good, to eat that much bread. But we've been sharing it too, having it for groups and stuff. So, yeah. But I think sourdough is supposed to be one of the most healthy breads you can eat. If you're going to eat a lot of bread, sourdough is not a bad choice.
Yeah.
But as far as smelling fresh bread, almost every day,
it's my favorite thing.
I come in the house and there's been some kind of fresh bread baked.
If there's fresh bread or if there's roast, I almost like that more than chocolate chip cookies smell in the house. Like a roast in the house smell is just amazing. I jokingly say that we know that the Bible says man cannot live by bread alone, but I think I could try because I really do love bread a whole lot. But we talked about how Jesus gives life. If you missed that sermon, you can go to tlcc.church and you can catch up there, or on YouTube or Facebook, you can see it there. We have a TLCC Top 3. Things letting you know that are happening this week. Brian, what do we got for the TLCC Top 3?
Well, Saturday is the men's second Saturday group, and I'm going to be going off on the mission trip, so I'll have to miss this one. But by the way, this isn't one of our top 3, but the Mexico group is leaving Friday. So pray for us on that group. It's always a lot of miles and hours on the road.
How long is it, that trip?
It's a little less than 24 hours.
I mean, it's driving driving.
We drive straight
and driving
through.
and driving and then some more driving.
Yeah.
That's wild.
But anyway, the men's second Saturday group, Saturday, Daniel will be leading that. And so any guys are invited. It's here at the church at 7:30 Saturday morning. Then Sunday is Super Bowl Sunday. It's Jersey Sunday. I'm sad that I'm going to be missing that. So
what jersey would you have worn?
I mean, it'd probably be Cardinals.
Yeah, I figured.
Because I actually have a jersey for Cardinals. Everything else is just like T-shirts.
Yeah. For some reason, I imagine you showing up in a St. Louis Blues jersey.
No.
I don't know why. But you're not a hockey fan,
Never watched a Blues game in my life.
I should have
Not
guessed.
that I
Cardinals.
wouldn't. I mean, but I've just never gotten into it.
Yeah.
But Jersey Sunday, you're encouraged to wear a jersey, any jersey. I mean, it could be your kid's sports team. It could be whatever. Just join in the fun wearing some jersey that day. There's going to be snacks. between 10 and 10:40, and it would be kind of that. I think a lot of different types of snacks, but we were going for like Super Bowl Sunday. People are eating snacks and stuff, and so it should be a fun morning. And maybe you want to invite a friend who doesn't normally come to church. Be a great day to invite them to come along, encourage them to wear their jersey.
Yeah.
I was surprised that the Royals made it onto our jersey graphic rather than Cardinals.
Well,
but, you know,
it was a color thing.
I was not the one that created that graphic this time. So.
We didn't want it to be all red. You know, you got to have a little blue in there.
And then the birthday supper, because we said this is coming up and we haven't talked a lot about it. So it's been a couple years, hasn't it, since we had a birthday supper here?
It's been
I don't think we had it the last couple years. But the women's ministry is kind of organizing it, but it's for the whole church. And so birthday supper is kind of fun. You bring something for the potluck, not desserts, because they provide the birthday cakes. But there is a table or two for each month of the year spread out around the gym. And you don't sit with your own family. You go, unless you're the same month's birthday, I guess. But you go to the table that has your month of birthday and hopefully meet some new people. I mean, if your kids are there, you can just pawn them off on some other people if they have a different birthday month. And I mean, we've done that with our kids and they love it. They get to help take care of them.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's really just a fun event.
That is fun. Trinity, when's your birthday? What month is your birthday?
May.
May? We wouldn't be at the same table together.
Oh.
Terrible.
I am December.
I was going to say,
it's always a Christmas.
You always get the Christmas one.
But since it's not in December, it's kind of fun. You know, it's usually, I think we almost always have it after Christmas. Yeah. And there's usually some good desserts on the Christmas table.
There's always good desserts. So there you go. You got Jersey Sunday coming up soon. We've got the birthday dinner coming up on the 16th.
5:30 p.m.
And I'm missing one.
Well, the
second
Saturday. That's this week.
That's this weekend. Okay, great. All right, well, Trinity, I am excited you're here, and I've been looking forward to this. We start out every interview the same way. I give you 60 seconds to introduce yourself, and I time it because it makes everything more fun. If you had never met Brian or I, and we say, who is Trinity? What's the most important things that you feel like this is who I am, and introduce yourself. Okay, you ready?
Yes.
Set, go.
So my name is Trinity Strain, like Daniel already mentioned. I went to Central Christian College of the Bible. I graduated with a degree in Christian counseling. I've lived here since 2019-ish, on and off. I'm originally from Ohio, Mansfield, Ohio, if anyone knows where that's at. And I think that's about it. I don't have a lot to share. Do you have any questions about me or anything you want to know?
27 seconds. That's great.
I'm pretty good.
That's pretty fantastic. That's not bad at all.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about how you got to Moberly. You mentioned you went to the Christian college. What was that decision like? How'd you get there? Tell us a little bit about your background.
Okay, so like I said, I'm originally from Mansfield, Ohio, which is about 9 hours away. And my senior year of high school, a lot of stuff happened. It wasn't a real great experience. So it led to me wanting to go to college out of state. And then my great-grandpa had gone to the Bible college. My preacher had gone to the Bible college. And my grandparents went there for a short time. So I knew of it. I was like, well, I'll just start applying anywhere I can go.
Why not?
Where I can afford. And so I applied to it. I got accepted. And then I was like, yeah, I'm not going there. That's too far away. And then I prayed about it for a while. And one day I was in my car and I was praying. And I was like, oh, just give me a sign of where I need to go. I'm tired of this.
Okay.
And in Ohio, we don't see a lot of Missouri plates or anything.
No.
And so I'm praying and I'm driving. And I get on the interstate. And I look up and the first license plate I see was a Missouri license plate.
I've never heard this story.
Yes, I don't tell it a lot. And so I was like, oh, okay, that's where I'm going. And
But you, so how did you know, that was the answer to prayer? You just knew?
Yeah, I just knew.
Okay.
Because I was in that moment. I would have taken anything, honestly. And I just knew that I needed to get out of state, and it just felt like it was where God was telling me,
wow, hey,
this is where you need to be. I see Kentucky plates all the time, which is another college I had applied to, but I didn't see that one. I saw Missouri, and I was like, oh, okay.
There you go. So this is a kind of a follow-up question, a side note question. What was the what's been, I guess you kind of move on past the college stage, but what was one of the harder things about being so far away from school, from home? Because I kind of had the experience as well. And then what was a good thing about it?
So I think the hardest thing was just not having a support system. When I moved here, I didn't know anyone. And honestly, I was homeschooled, so school was a new experience too. And
Homeschoolers unite.
Yes. And so that was a whole new experience. And so that was the hardest part, just not having really anyone to rely on close to me. The best part was I learned how to be independent. I don't really rely on people too much. I mean, obviously I call you all the time when I need something. But I've learned how to do most things on my own. And so I think it's been a gift.
Yeah. And then developing your own like support system here, because you have surrounded yourself with people, with good people who love you and who care for you and who help you. Like it is interesting to figure out a family away from family and know that, there's good people everywhere.
Yeah. And that's been something, I mean, that's a big reason I stuck around, because my support system here is so great, honestly.
That's awesome. So you graduate from school and then you get a job.
Yes.
And then you switch job.
No.
The same job?
I've been there the whole time.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, so tell us about your job. This is why I wanted to talk to you and bring you on to this podcast. Tell us about your job. What do you do?
So I work as a case manager and investigator for Children's Division in Randolph and Howard County. Do you want me to go into what that is?
Yeah, what is that? I mean, when people hear case manager, everybody has different things that comes to mind. And then when you hear for Children's Division, you're like, oh, shoot, that's like serious. Like, what is that? Are you the bad guy? Are you the good guy? Are you like...
So I'm both.
Oh, okay.
So as I'm a general worker, so I do hotlines as well when working with people. But for the case manager piece of it, so when a child is placed into alternative care, which is what we do, the parents then have to be enrolled in services. We have to find placement for the kids to go. So that's really what we do, is case managing, like helping parents get into counseling, parenting classes, things like that, and then making sure the kids get into counseling, have their own placement, make sure they're going, like all the court date stuff's figured out and things like that. And then the investigator, we get hotlines every day and go in and investigate the allegations that we receive.
That's heavy.
It is.
Well, I want to ask you about the heaviness of it in a moment, but Brian, you and Jessica did fostering for a little bit. Did you ever deal with individuals like Trinity?
Absolutely.
And how difficult was that? No, I'm just kidding.
We feel bad for them. Seriously, our experience at least. I'm sure there's people who don't get along with their caseworkers and all that. They are overworked. They have like 8 million things on their desk at one. Well, if they're even at their desk at one time. I mean, we would do mostly Zoom meetings which that may still be the way it is, but we were fostering during the right after COVID time, and everything was virtual. So even the home visits, you'd have to hold your computer up and walk around your house. It was the dumbest thing, because you could hide. I mean, they really didn't know anything about your home except what you showed them with your computer. But
we do not do that anymore.
So. Well, I would kind of hope not, because like I say, people could hide anything or whatever. But those positions are so important, especially when there's any kind of conflict or there's just all kinds of messy situations. I mean, when kids are pulled from homes, there's a reason for it, and that process is not fun. And there are some situations that are obviously easier to deal with than others, but a lot of them are, like I say, messy situations that somebody's always mad at somebody. Somebody's always unhappy.
Yes.
And they're taking a lot of that. They're having to deal with a lot of that.
Yeah. It feels like in our area, or at least in our county, the rates of kids that are in unstable or maybe even dangerous environments, it just feels like it's higher than other areas. And maybe that's jaded, and maybe that's even wrong, because when you go to like bigger cities, I'm sure there's just as many. Do you feel like the numbers are higher in this area? And do you know any, like, is that true?
So I can actually speak to that somewhat. We are we are one of the highest amount of in this. Randolph and Howard County has the most kids in care in Missouri. We do have more kids in care. I know comparatively to New Orleans, that was the comparison that was being used at one point.
Wow.
That Missouri.
These two counties have more kids in care than the city of New Orleans.
Yes.
Wow. Which is a massive city.
Yes. And so I do think that, I mean, it could be a little jaded, but I do also think that there is a need in this area.
Mm-hmm. So to that need, let's get into that a little bit, because we know that those circumstances and situations are not all black and white. You get a hotline call, you go into a situation, sometimes it might be black and white, I guess, but a lot of times you are having to make decisions and to figure out situations and deal with such complicated issues that are multifaceted. We're talking addictions, we're talking job insecurities, we're talking housing insecurities, we're talking financial insecurities, we're talking relationship problems. All of this is this huge, giant mess. Mm-hmm. So I guess what unique challenges on your end are like, you thought this would be a challenge, but this is what's the biggest challenges that you face as a caseworker?
So I think the biggest challenge is people do not like us for the most part. Mm-hmm. You're kind of walking in on this it's a hard territory to walk. You're trying to help someone who does not want to be helped, and I think that's just because you hear the saying, you can't help them unless they want help, and we're quite literally forcing people to get help even if they don't want it, because
children are involved.
Yes. Yeah. And so I think that's the most unique situation that I didn't think about prior to, like, when I was looking at, hey, I want to do this, I didn't think, I'm going to be forcing you guys to do this, and then if you're not doing what I ask, there's natural yeah. And so I think that is just probably the biggest struggle that we have in dealing with.
Brian, do you have a something that you always wanted to ask your caseworker, or something you always wondered about caseworkers?
I don't know. See, we had more one-on-one interaction with our Coyote Hill person.
Okay, because you went to Coyote Hill.
The relationship we had with the caseworker was like the paperwork side of things, I might as well say. One thing I do wonder is, have you ever been in one of those situations where you had a kid and they couldn't go anywhere and like they slept in your office? Because I heard stories about that.
Yes, that happens pretty frequently, and we're very blessed in this county. We do have a couple foster parents who we can always call, and we'll take kids at least for a night to help us out. But yeah, we've had a lot of situations where, hey, you're gonna have to sleep in the office with them or stuff like that.
Yeah.
So.
You're not allowed to take a kid home with you.
We are not.
Yeah, that's probably a good.
It is. Thing. It keeps us safe.
Yeah,
So.
Absolutely. How do you? So I'm going off script now again. How do you, like, what are the criteria? Like, I'm sure there's standards in, like, your job description of, like, rules you've got to follow. But how much judgment do you have to use on your end when making decisions about whether to continue a case, open a case, take a kid out of a home? It's a lot of that on you and your wisdom and your judgment, or is there, like, set standards?
So for coming into care, a lot of that would be on the investigator. We are the ones call. So I would call my supervisor calls her boss, and then we decide what we're going to do. But it's based off of what the investigator, what information the investigator gives to.
But you're investigating. Are you investigating?
Mm-hmm. Sometimes. Yeah. And so so when we're removing a child, it's very dependent on what we tell them and what our judgment is and what.
How do you, like, in good conscience then say, like, this is what's best for the child? And then also, how do you not, like, immediately or even every time be like, I want this kid out of this situation?
It's very hard.
Because, there's times where it's like, maybe this is horrible and I don't agree with it, but according to the state, I can't pull this kid out. You know what I mean? Like, there's got to be situations where you're like, I want this kid gone out of this home. And then other situations where it's like, it would tear me apart to pull a child away from their parent.
Mm-hmm. It's just a very careful balance.
So you're saying you have no idea?
I have no idea. Okay. So for the most part, if I feel like a kid is unsafe, I'll talk through with my supervisor, and she's very good at being like, okay, well, this is what we can do. We do also have the other option of we put services in a lot of homes of the families that we work with. If it's like, oh, this isn't okay, but we want to help you. We want you guys to stay together. We see that this would not be in your child's best interest to leave, but obviously we can't keep things the way they are.
Right.
So that's, another thing that we...
And I should probably clarify that she does know what she's doing. I don't want it to sound like she's just out there, or I don't want anyone to see this thinking that caseworkers are just making it up as they go along. She does. But it's got to be so difficult.
It is. It's a lot of judgment calls every day. And then so like for the permanency and working the case side of things, a lot of that we work with the judge on. We can never change the goal of a case. The judge has to order that. So typically we do court every 3 months, I think, the first year of the case, and then 6 months after that. And so the judge would be the one who would change that goal, not us.
This is just a side note. I've talked to some parents that are frustrated, and you guys have probably felt this too, about the length of time that it takes things to get done. Can you tell us a little bit about why it takes so long, and then do you ever get frustrated about the length of time with like getting cases to progress through the courts to make decisions?
Yeah.
Why does it take so long?
So we never, obviously with termination of parental rights, that's never our first goal. And so if that's where we're going, that's going to always take a long time because we have to prove our reasonable efforts. They have to prove their reasonable efforts. And then
and Missouri is a reunification state.
Yes,
like the first goal is always to keep them with the parents.
Our first goal is to always get kids back in the home. And that's what we want. That's what we're working towards as soon as the kid. And then sometimes, so what I always tell parents, I can't give you any sort of time frame on how this is going to work. But it's completely dependent on how the parents do and giving our we give them a social service plan of what they need to do. And then it's dependent on whether they do what we've asked of them.
So on that end, did you guys ever get frustrated with how long things took, or did you kind of know going in?
The situation we were in was kind of unique in that I think the parents always were doing quite a bit towards meeting that goal, which is good. It was good for that family.
Right. Yeah. That means
that's
the system
a lot
is
of
working
times not what's happening. And we have to be very careful about things that we say, cases that we know.
Sure.
However, we've known many people who the parents appeared to be doing zilch, and yet we're still given 8,000 chances to start doing one thing.
Right.
Those are the ones that get frustrating because it's like, okay, we knew a year ago they're not doing anything towards meeting this goal, so why has the goal not been changed? Ultimately, though, that's that judge, and they've got a gut feeling about it, or in some cases, statute that binds them. And some people learn how to work that system, to be honest, about how to just do just barely enough so that the goal isn't changed. There's all kinds of things that can happen. But at the end of the day, the frustration comes from, okay, I see this kid and I see the environment they're in now versus where they might go back to if they go home. And what you have to learn to do, I think, in the foster system to separate that is to say, the goal isn't for them to go be reunified to a home that's just like mine or just like our values, our worldview even. Because you'll be very frustrated if that's it. Because that's probably not going to happen. It's for them to go back to a safe environment. And it doesn't mean that it's going to look like what you would even necessarily hope for that kid. You might hope that they have, in our context, a Christian home. Well, in the state foster system, that can't be my goal.
That's not a criteria for them.
I still hope that. I hope that family meets Jesus and all that, but the system isn't there for that purpose.
Has there been for you learning the system and learning the pros of it, the cons of it? Do you think the system works? And maybe you can't really speak to that, but have you seen have you seen positive results where you're like, okay, this is working? Obviously there's always going to be negative, but as you've been working it, do you think it works?
I think it does. If all parties are doing what they're supposed to be doing, I think that with any system, it's dependent on everybody involved, and we're working with people, so that's
Flawed people.
that's where we're at. There's been a lot of situations where I wish things had gone differently, or I wish we could have done something differently, or I wish they had done something differently, but we're working with humans, and sometimes they just are doing the best they can do, and I have to be okay with that.
Yeah. So to that end, how do you, because you've seen the worst of the worst, probably, where you walk into a home and it's just like, this is unimaginable. How do you, and you probably heard all the stories, parents who have all the reasons, all the stories, and you've probably heard countless lies, I'm guessing. How do you keep yourself from being jaded? Like, are you still hopeful?
Sometimes. Well, you gotta understand, I was a pretty jaded person in college, too. So...
It's like, that was my natural state.
It's just gotten worse.
Yeah.
No, actually, I was talking to an officer the other day, and we were kind of talking about how you do remain hopeful in some of the situations that we see, because it's hard. I mean, you see these kids, you want to... I mean, I've cried numerous times, honestly. Sure. And so it's hard. But the thing that helps me is knowing that I've made a difference in these kids' lives. And, you know, there's a lot of situations where I see things and I can't fix things, or there's nothing that I can do, even though I know it's not okay. And so what I hold on to is the fact that there have been lives that I've changed and helped. Or at least I like to believe so.
Well, I was going to ask later on, but I was going to ask you, like, do you feel like you've made a difference in the last, was it been?
2 years in May.
Yeah, 2 years in May. Okay. Like, do you feel like you've been able to make a difference for some of these kids?
I hope so. There have been a couple kids who have really stuck out to me and have been in some situations, and they've hugged me and thanked me. And so, I mean, I like to think that and there's kids who they don't understand, and I'm okay with that. Yeah. And I hope that one day they can see what we were trying to do.
Yeah. Is there any lessons that you've learned about family or things that are important? Because you go into these circumstances where you're having to judge like horrible situations, but from that vantage point, you know, are there things about family that you knew mattered, but then like now you know how much it matters because you've seen the negative side of things?
Yeah, there's two big lessons that I've taken away from this job. The first is, if you're a parent, your kid loves you no matter what. It doesn't, I mean, it does not matter what you do. Your child will look up to you and they will love you. I've done some situations where kids looked me in the face and just asked if their parents told us that they loved them. And so
that's all they wanted.
That's all they wanted to know. Did my mom say that she loves me? That's all they wanted to know. And so I think that that's just something that's important for every parent to know, and anyone it impacts you, the love that you give. And so just be careful, and we should all just be nicer to each other. And then the second thing that I think I've learned is you can be family to people who aren't your family. And I say that I've seen it with kids. Foster parents change lives. They really do. I've seen foster parents take these kids and show them a life that they've never seen before and treat them like one of their own. And I've also seen people do that with parents that I work with, taking them under the wing, encouraging them, helping them grow. And so I've seen that family just doesn't have to be the people you were born into or where you came from.
That's really good. You are a person who believes in Jesus.
Yeah.
And you have faith in God. How has that faith been challenged through this job and maybe even strengthened?
So it's definitely been challenged a lot. So I come from the Bible college background, like I've already talked about, and I have done whole papers on theodicy and the idea of why bad things happen, even though technically God, could step in. And I've struggled with that this entire job. That's probably where I struggle the most, because even though I understand it and I've studied it and I have this conceptual belief of it,
it's real life.
You're looking into people's eyes who don't understand it, who don't believe what I believe, and how And how can I spread, sometimes it feels like, how can I spread Jesus' love when you are in the worst of the worst? And I have no explanation for why you're going through that. And so, I mean, I believe in Jesus. I love him. But it's hard. It's really hard sometimes to be in these situations and see those things.
Has God given you any answers yet?
No, not yet. I'm still praying. And so that's really where I struggle the most, just how to keep spreading his love when you're seeing situations where it's like, where are you at?
Yeah, and how is this going to lead to anything good?
But it's also been strengthened in times where there have been situations that I've been in, and it's like, okay, I see you here now, God. I see why I'm here, and thank you so much for letting me be here at this right time. So
that's powerful. I don't think that, at least for me, I think much about, I know that the call that we've been given to help people that are in desperate situations, but you don't always think about the people who are actually on the front lines, if you will, going into homes, doing these difficult things. And so I just want to tell you thank you, because I know the burden that is for you and your coworkers. I am curious how, as a church, what kind of support do you think the church can offer you and your coworkers as you do this difficult job? And how can we pray for you through it? Other than buying you food.
You don't have to buy me food.
And helping unlock your car. I'll
still call you.
I had to bring that up.
So I think the biggest thing is, if you've ever felt the call to be a foster parent, I would listen to it.
Go ahead and make your plug.
Daniel, you can reach out to Daniel. He'll get you in touch with me. If you've ever felt that call, we can help facilitate that. There is a desperate need for foster parents, even just emergency placements for the night. And these kids need it too, and they need a loving home. So if that's something that you can provide or facilitate, reach out to me, please. And then the other thing, please pray for our mental and emotional health. We see the worst of the worst. We see people on the worst day of their lives every day, and we are expected to just keep going and keep doing it and go to work and keep helping these people. And it's heavy and it's hard, and we just need prayers for that.
So be praying for them. How many people work with you directly?
I have 5 workers, which are the ones who do investigations and case management, and then we have 2 case aides who help us. So about 7 of us who are seeing and doing these things.
Wow. So be praying for them, and when you think about our area, and if you ever get like I get, where it's discouraging and you're like, man, this feels so heavy. Know there are people who are trying to help, and people that we can support as well. And maybe out of this will come some people here listening that may be interested in saying, hey, I can't adopt a child right now, but I wouldn't mind if a kid slept in my house for a night, or emergency placement or something like that. And maybe that's you. And so if it is, let us know, and we'd love to connect you with them. There is so much more we could talk about, but we have to be done for now. If this has piqued your interest at all, let us know, and I'll get you in contact with Trinity, and you can talk with her more about what she does, how she does it, and the support that they could use. And yeah, also, if you ever just want to give them a gift card or something, be like, hey,
we'll take it.
Help me with, thank you for your help. It's amazing. It's amazing. Okay. Well, thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well worth the wait.
Glad to do it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us this week on the Ripple Effect Podcast. We're so glad that you've joined us, and we hope to see you right here on the next episode. See you guys.